welcome to TEC 2025. I am absolutely delighted this morning to be opening the innovation stage. I'll be bookending the sessions today, so you've got me this morning and then you've also got me at the end of today as well. For those that I haven't met yet, I'm Chantal Millian-Lawson and I am the incoming Chief Operating Officer to TSA. Been with the team for about 4 months now, so this is my first TEC on the inside. I'm very much looking forward to the next couple of days. Tomorrow on this stage we've got a few really exciting sessions that I just wanted to draw your attention to before we really get into the swing of the session this morning. So our very own Charlotte Finlay will be chairing a session tomorrow with Virgin O2, with DHSC, with LGA and suppliers, who are all coming together to give you some really useful, on the ground, tried, tested examples of how you can support through the transition of the digital switchover. Also tomorrow, our very own Alison Scurfield will be offering a session with NHS England and others, again giving you those real world examples of how to improve outcomes for people. And that's the thing that I really enjoy about TEC and about TSA in general, is that we're giving you real life, practical examples that can help on the ground. So before we really get into the session today, I just would like to take a few minutes to introduce Rian from PA Consulting, who have very kindly sponsored this session at this stage today, and she'll be giving a few words to open us up.
Thank you, Chantal, and good morning, everyone. It is a privilege to welcome you to the innovation stage here at TEC, and I'm proud to be here representing PA Consulting. For those of you who aren't familiar with PA, we are a global management consulting in an innovation and transformation consultancy. And please forgive me if it's a little early on a Monday for a corporate slogan, but I'm actually quite fond of ours, because at PA, we believe in the power of ingenuity to build a positive human future. And this is no more evident than through our Argenti Tech services and our work with councils, where we're renowned for delivering innovations that push the boundaries of how technology can support people and help councils with some of the complex challenges they are facing. And we genuinely do believe that tech can build a positive human future and do more to really help our public sector that, let's face it, is under real pressure. And that is why we are pleased to demonstrate our investment in the tech sector once again through the sponsorship of the innovation stage. I know from the work that we're doing, and that I see others do, that there is some great innovation taking place across the sector, and I'm excited to hear more about this over the next couple of days and to celebrate some standout achievements this evening as well. We will see that councils don't have an innovation problem per se, but there does continue to be a sticky challenge around adoption and scale. Of course, funding plays part, but it's also about leadership, skills, capabilities, collaboration and culture, and demonstrating the positive care outcomes and cost-effective impact that secures that sustained investment. There are sessions across the conference programme that will explore these themes further, and I'm really excited to be part of those. Now, one area where we know there is a huge potential for tech to support both financial and care outcomes is in the area of learning disabilities. And I am delighted that this year I can see on the conference agenda a session that Charlotte's running tomorrow on greater independence and choice for those with learning disabilities and autism support. As I say, we can recognise it's an area of huge potential. And I'm really proud that over the last decade, our Argenti services have shown real impact, working with service users, families, the workforce, both in providers and with our council partners, to really adopt and foster a culture that embraces the potential of tech to maximise independence for those younger adults. So if you're interested about learning more on this, we are holding a roundtable here tomorrow. So please do get in touch with myself or any one of my PA colleagues, either in person or via the app, and we'll be happy to tell you more. Another area where I know many of us recognise there is great potential, and I'm sure we'll hear lots over the course of the conference, is around prevention and proactive care. I'm looking forward to the session coming up later today on this stage, where we'll hear more about the joint ADAS and TSA commission in this area. And as part of PA's work in this space, we're pleased to be joining Taking Care in launching a new proposition later on today called Halo. This is a new approach to prevention, but at its core, it uses data and information that the vast majority of councils already have. This is harnessing the right technologies, the right people, the right partnerships, and delivering on a clear need. And I think it's a really great example of innovation in action. Tomorrow morning, we'll hear more about the need for bold action, but I won't steal his thunder because my colleague Robert Turnbull will be up here sharing some reflections from this year's Senior Leaders Survey. So finally, I'd just like to thank Alison and her team for putting together what looks to be a fantastic programme and providing us all with the opportunity to share, learn and champion the incredible work that's happening right across the tech sector. So as we move through the next couple of days and ideas spark, let's remember it's not just about the ideas. But innovation comes from the action that each and every one of us takes to turn those ideas into real change and improve care outcomes. Because after all, I'm pretty sure that's why we're all here. So thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your conference. Thank you, Chantal.
Thank you. Fantastic. So, as I mentioned, this first session here this morning is to launch a fantastic campaign from TSA around common understanding. When I joined the organisation 4 months ago, there were so many exciting things to get my teeth into and to learn, and I'd seen them from the outside as an admirer of the organisation, but coming in, the common understandings piece was something that resonated a lot with me personally. Throughout my career, I've been a care assistant, I've been a founder and creator of a technology company, I have been in central government, and with every one of those changes came new ways of working, new policies, new priorities, but perhaps most scary, a whole new language every single time. And I was supporting the same sector, I was working in the same sector, but we would use different words when we meant the same thing, or we would use the same word and, very scary, we would often mean different things. So with every move came that frustration of what are we actually talking about here? And that's why I found this piece of work particularly exciting. At the core of TSA is responding to the sector's needs, whether it be responding to risks, new innovations, whatever that might be. And so following the work of the Tech Action Alliance and the What People Want from Tech report, the organisation received a mandate from its board to stand up a new project that would help with that common understanding, that would help us all speak that same language around everyday tech. This work is about breaking down barriers, because it shouldn't be what technology I can buy in Currys versus what technology my local authority can socially prescribe to me. It shouldn't be our definition of what is technology-enabled care. Technology-enabled care might be the technologies that I choose to buy from Amazon, or I choose to purchase as a gift, as a Christmas present for a loved one. Or it might be that specialist technology that my local authority can put in place to support me, and that's okay. Those barriers can be open of what we interpret technology-enabled care to be, and that's the beauty of this campaign. So I'm absolutely delighted to hand over to Steve, who's one of our experts in TSA, who's been working tirelessly to pull this work together, along with our very own Rowan, who is sat over there, who I need to give a great shout out to because she's done some incredible work on this as well. So without any further ado, I'll hand over to Steve, who will give you all of the detail of this fantastic work. Thank you.
Quite sure how I'm supposed to move the presentation forward. They told me there'd be a clicker.
There you go. You can tell we're the first session of the day.
Yeah, just getting used to the technology. Sorry, folks. Right, thank you very much for having me. This is quite a daunting prospect, not only because it's the first time I've ever worn one of these little mics and earpieces, but also because I didn't know what I was going to face into. And it's quite weird looking at a crowd of people with blue lights on. It's all very technology enabled, which is impressive, but quite a thrower for a new speaker. My name's Steve Brunt. I'm a strategy consultant, and I've been brought in to look at this piece because there was clearly a demand for how we communicate better, how we communicate more consistently across the sector, and that's what I do. I look at communications, I look at ways in which we can engage our audiences better, and I try and develop that work for clients like TSA. So I was really glad to be brought in. It's a great project. I'm not an expert in technology-enabled care. I'm sitting in a room full of people who are, and that's partly why I was brought in, because I think a lot of the time with sectors like yours, you spend a lot of time like this talking to each other, and sometimes the conversations can become shortcuts, the language can become shortcuts, and actually we end up in a situation where we all know what we're talking about, but everybody outside is getting increasingly less and less clear. And so what we were asked to do was to look at this in terms of how can we make this as broad and universal a set of language as we can to engage as broad and universal an audience as we can. Because we know we're dealing with audiences, very diverse audiences across the country, with a topic that's increasingly important, that increasingly reaches more and more people and requires them to understand what they're being asked to consider. And that's only going to become more and more critical as the sector becomes tighter and tighter. So the foundations of the work that I did, I had to go and have a look at everything that everybody else has already done, obviously. There's a load of great work out there, some really good videos, films, reports. Obviously, I've gone away and I've read as much of that as I can. I won't have read all of it, but I've read a fair amount. And I was looking for not only the language inconsistencies, but also what bubbles through as consistent. What can we look at here that actually works and resonates with people and connects with our audiences effectively? But also, what is it we're really trying to say? How broad is this sector and how much do we need to unify? I also had to look, obviously, talk to people who had lived experience. I, as I say, I'm not an expert, but I also need to hear from people who live day to day with technology-enabled care. Not only those that actually are using it, are drawing on care and support, but also those that are starting to deliver those services or delivering those services. So I spent a very nice day. Jackie from Stockport Homes very kindly took me around to a load of people's homes. We met people and talked to them, and obviously that's a vital part of how you immerse yourself in this sector. We also took what we'd done out back into the community and talked to people about how they reacted to it, how they felt the work resonated with them, and whether they understood what we were trying to say. So we've both sourced and also validated what we've done with those lived experience audiences. But perhaps most critically, there's a huge piece of work been done by Sarah Alden, which probably you're all familiar with, that was a really great insight into how people who draw on care and support think about the technology they use, and how they understand technology as enabling their lives. And that report, along with many of the other reports, very clearly demonstrates the need to think from their point of view, to think from that kind of customer end point of view, as a more kind of marketing language would take it, and think in terms of how they connect with that technology, how they see it enabling their everyday lives. And that was a critical part of shaping how we approached it. And actually even the notion of the language that we use being unified comes from the same sort of source. So Sarah's work was a really big influence, but actually even that it's still quite broad, quite lots of different categories in there. So we tried to make it more simple than that, so that we could embody more of what we're talking about. So the requirements from what I drew from that were, we need more of certain things. We need to be more person-centered rather than technology-centered. It's inevitable, of course, when you have a product, that's the product that you talk about. But actually, in terms of connecting with audiences, it's the benefit that they're interested in. It's the impact it has on their lives that they're interested in. So if we start from the person, not from the technology, then we start to see it in terms of their lives and the way and the things it enables them to be able to do, rather than the things that we think of as the products. So being technology-centered raises barriers because you have to understand technology, and I'm sure you will find this. Whenever I've gone out and talked to people about technology, a lot of the people we're talking to will say, "Oh, I'm not a technology person. Oh, I don't get it. I'm a technophobe. I'm a Luddite." And then you'll see them pull their phone out of their pocket, or they'll engage in some way with the technology they are familiar with, and suddenly you can see that actually they're not. They just find the concept of technology off-putting. Actually, providing them with a tool is not. Fitting into what they need to do with their lives is not off-putting at all. They recognise a tool in their hands. They don't necessarily recognise that as technology. But also, there's a divisiveness to talking about people, as I've just done again and again, people who draw on care and support rather than us. Actually, we all benefit from these services. The whole community, the whole country is benefiting from the kinds of services you guys are providing. So let's talk about we, not they. Let's be inclusive. Let's take it, rather than being a group of people we're trying to talk to, actually it's us and the benefits it has for us. It's much more inclusive and much more empowering and much easier to think from the person's point of view. if we think in the inclusive noun of we. We need to be more positive. There's a huge difference being made every day to people's lives. So we should focus on making sure that what we're talking about is how we make lives better, what the improvements or the everyday boosts that we give people by putting technology in their hands. So let's talk about enjoyment of life. Let's talk about the benefits that we're having for people, not only just the fact that they're receiving services. It'll make it much, much easier for people to see those benefits if we're thinking in those terms. But also, let's not think just in terms of the kinds of technology that's specifically for enabling care, but for the ways in which everybody's technology is starting to do that and blend between the two. There doesn't need to be a very clear barrier. The houses I went into had other technologies in them. They had smart speakers, they had telephones, they had other ways in which people engage with technology. And we don't need to treat those things as separate. They are, and in Sarah Zolden's report really demonstrated this, a critical part of how people think about technology enabling their care, a critical part of how they think about the connections with their families, their friends, the services that support them, and the ways that their lives are enabled to be better. So we shouldn't think of those things as separate, and certainly our audiences aren't thinking of those things as separate. I keep talking about our audiences. Of course, there are multiple audiences here. But we were looking for that universality, so that ability to think from the point of view of the end receiver of services, the people who draw in care and support and their families, as well as the people who provide those services, the housing and the care, the health services that provide those services. We need a language that unifies all of those groups, not only a few of those. So it needs to be something that reaches out to that most broad audience if we can manage it. This is the I've forgotten the term. Age positive. Thank you, Rod. The age positive photography bank, which I think is a good inspiration for how we should think about the lives we're reflecting. We're not trying to make things perfect. We're improving things every day, but it's everyday life we're improving. And you look at those images and you can see people's real lives, a little bit of mess, a little bit of a little bit of disorder, but a lot of smiles and a lot of kind of enjoyment of their life at home and around their homes. And that's the sort of spirit that we looked for in the campaign as well. That's the sort of spirit we're looking to try and create. So when we talk about common language, we're thinking about how can we talk about tech services in a way that everybody can get. How can we sell the idea of tech to people so that they can see how it's going to have an impact on their lives? And the way I describe that is, it's the everyday help we need to enjoy the lives we want. And those words are really critical. Each one of those words has power to it. Every day is really important because the incremental benefits every day really add up for people. Actually, it's that kind of constant presence in their lives that is really vital. Even if it's only a peace of mind benefit, it's there every day. And it's small helps, but they all add up. And they do ultimately build into a picture that people really feel that extra level of support from. It's what we need, but it's what we need to enjoy life, the life we want. This is about empowering people to enjoy the life that they imagine they would like to have, that do things that they couldn't do without or wouldn't do without this technology. And that's a really important part of how we see this picture. So it is about the enjoyment of life, and enjoyment is a really powerful word for engaging people. But in practical terms, what it's actually doing for people is providing three real pillars of communication. So what tech's doing is it's keeping us in control, it's keeping us in touch, and it's allowing us to keep ourselves safe and well. So effectively what that means is, in control means managing our everyday life around our homes, in and around our homes, the ways in which we can suddenly have power over the services that would otherwise be difficult for us to manage, things that we couldn't do without. It keeps us in touch with friends, with families, with services, with interests. That notion of in touch is a really critical part of what tech is enabling for a lot of our users. And it, of course, critically keeps ourselves safe and well. So it gives us that opportunity to manage our own health, to manage our own monitoring, to connect with services and make sure that we stay safe. A really critical part, obviously, and those works reflect back to Sarah Alden's work. Those words reflect really clearly back to Sarah Alden's work. The same categories she did fit into that picture, but it gives us a really clear, consistent language to be using every time we're talking about tech. in control, in touch, safe and well. A really clear distinction between the categories, but one that I think almost all that we do fits into one or other of, or more than one of those categories. So it's a really powerful way of looking at the whole sector and being able to talk to people about the ways in which it's helping them in their everyday lives. There is a whole wealth of further messaging sitting underneath that. We've got, I'll just click to it. I'm not suggesting anyone try and read this, but the campaign is built to extend out into more areas. So we think in terms of who benefits from tech. That's the millions of us who are drawing on care and support, but also the families and the unpaid carers and the health care and housing support services that are providing for people. So it's almost a concentric circles model that allows you to keep looking at that language and think in terms of that. This is obviously not suggesting you all sit here and try and read this. The campaign is built to kind of help spread that messaging in ways that, again, keeping the language consistent, keeping the customer-centric or the kind of user-centric approach to it, and keep using that kind of that approach of those three main pillars of communication. So, summary of the key messaging that we're talking about there is tech services are the everyday help we need to enjoy the lives we want. Tech services help us to be in control, in touch, and safe and well. And tech doesn't only help those who are drawing on care and support, it gives our families and unpaid carers more peace of mind, and our health care and housing services ways to support more people in more personalised ways. So, simple statement, a really consistently usable statement, but that's the spirit of that language keeps playing out across what we've done. What we've then done is build a campaign that allows you to deliver that messaging, and it's a flexible campaign, it's adaptable, it's something that anyone can take on and use. It's built to be used by anybody in the sector to communicate anything they want to. So we want people to grab onto this and make use of it. There's a film, you might have noticed a couple of banners already that are around here, but there's a core film and then there's a load of different assets that fall off that will give people posters and social assets and anything else they want to use. So that is going to be freely available, downloadable from the TSA website, and it's going to be available to all of you. I will show that film. Okay, hopefully this is going to work.
Every day, across the country, millions of us are drawing on some sort of care or support. From older people just like me, who want to stay independent, to young people leaving home for the first time. Technology-enabled care services can provide the everyday help we need to enjoy the lives we want. This means we can feel in control and manage everyday tasks. We can keep in touch with family, friends, and the other things that make us happy. And we can keep ourselves safe and well. Technology-enabled care services give us confidence and our families and carers peace of mind, knowing if we need advice or urgent help, we can easily trigger it. Technology-enabled care services are right alongside us in our everyday lives, so we're always connected to our whole support network of formal and informal care. And everybody knows I'm all right. Technology-enabled care services. The everyday help we need to enjoy the lives we want.
Okay, so that's the film. Hopefully you enjoy it. It's got three characters you can see really there. We're trying to cover the spectrum of potential audiences there in terms of an older audience, a more middle-aged audience, and that younger audience. So we've got our three characters. We call them Keith, Nahira, and Nathan. but you don't have to stick to those names. And we're deliberately trying to demonstrate that actually their lives are enriched by technology-enabled care, that actually it's really helping them enjoy what matters to them, enjoy the connections they have with their family, and with their outdoor interests and their other aspects of their lives. So we really love those characters. Hopefully you do too. They run across a campaign that allows you to use templates in social and in posters. So they each kind of support different aspects of what we're talking about. Hopefully people will see themselves in those characters. They're designed to be broad and sort of recognisable characters to people in the sector. It's built to, again, run across whatever services, whatever kind of platforms you want to do, and it is all available to download. These are little short clips, little cut downs from the film. That just allow you to bring a specific point to life. It's built to be flexible, modular, and open to all, and designed to be able to be adapted and brought to life within your own needs. So, yeah, as I say, those campaign resources are available to download, and I think they're Rowan, are they ready now? Yeah. So, if you get a break, you can always just go and get them. I think that's all I need to talk about. Do you want to take as a... Yeah.
Thank you very much. Fantastic. So hopefully that's given you a really good idea of the look and the feel of the campaign. And just to recap, really, these assets are available on the TSA website. You can accompany them with your own brand, your own logo. You can sit us and those characters alongside whether you're a local authority, whether you are a supplier of technology. And what that does is it helps us to tell that consistent story. It helps that messaging, and it helps a person be able to see a consistent understanding of what technology-enabled care might mean across different people that might support them. So if I'm, the example that we talked about as a team was, somebody might, in a widespread approach to this in a locality, an individual might go to their local bus stop, and they might see a poster of Keith, or Nathan, who I think, by the way, is definitely a Newcastle fan, not a Man City fan. I know he's in blue, but he's definitely a Newcastle fan. They might see Nathan, they might see Keith at the local bus stop, and they might see that accompanied with their local authorities branding. And they think, oh, okay, what is that? I understand that. I think I know what that might mean. They go a couple of days later to their local GP, and they're waiting in the waiting room to see their local GP, and they see the same character again. And there's a little bit more information there. There's a leaflet. They pick it up, they read it, they understand it. They then go home and have the conversation with son, with daughter, goes on the local authority's website, finds that information, and then we can understand that technology and ask for that technology. But until somebody understands what is available to them, then we can't start that conversation. And that's the hope here, is that we're enabling, whether you are a DAS, whether you are a supplier, whoever you might be in the sector, we all use this common understanding, these common themes, this common language, and it helps that transition. So we're now going to move on to a panel discussion. So if anybody's got any questions that you might want to ask, I think we've got a microphone somewhere, she says, hoping that somebody's going to very helpfully appear with a microphone. I'm going to open it up to any questions that we might have. I've got a couple just to kick us off. To anybody really across the panel, if you'd like to, when you first speak, if you'd like to just introduce yourselves if you haven't spoken yet. One of the first questions that I had was, why do you feel this campaign is important to you? Maybe, Deborah, we could start with yourself.
Thank you. Hello, I'm, you can hear me?
We can.
Okay. I'm Deborah. In previous life, I was a midwife. Now I do a lot of voluntary work for technology with older people. I took part in the TAPI project. I was a co-production champion within that. And it's very important to me that technology from a service user's point of view is not something that's going to be done to people, but get them involved in it. So it's not like, okay, we have this fantastic piece of equipment, let's go and find a supported housing and give it to everybody, because I also live in supported housing and I chair a supported housing group. And often you'll find people want to do things to people, but with technology, and I always use myself an example, when we did TAPI, we had a conversation, and it was only via that conversation we found out what technology can do for me. And all I needed, the thing I struggled the most with was being able to open my curtains. And because we had that conversation, found out that there was something available to do that. So now I could use my phone and control opening my curtains, which now has empowered me. But like, if you came around and said, oh, well, we have iPhone, we have iPad, we have this, we have that, you know, it would be not have benefited me. It's anything, I'm very independent. So I don't want something that would reduce that or take that away from me, but something that would enhance that. But the most important thing is I want to be part of the decision making on what I want to use and what it's to be used for.
Fantastic, thank you. Rich?
Hi everyone, it's lovely to be here. My name's Richard Amos, and I'm part of the personalisation agenda across the country, having input into lots of different forums. Why this is really important to me is because I wanted to bring it back down to humanity. And I think sometimes there's often many different ways in which people with lived experience are separated from the rest of the population just because of our identities or the services that we have to use, where it's really interesting that how this has been framed in terms of working towards an understanding, and we hope that the whole of that will really unite people in terms of appreciating about who we all are as individuals, and that the language we use and approaches we take can have a really big impact. But it's all about framing as well. And as much as this is a tech conference, I would go one further to say, for me, tech is all about technology-enabled lives, and how platforms like this conference can really facilitate me to live an ordinary life. And that's why it's really important that the framing and the mindset we all hold when we think about tech is that it is to enable lives and the way we do things on an everyday basis.
Brilliant, and I think that's one of the key things that hopefully comes through in the video, and has definitely come through from the both of you, that actually it's about individuals and it's about the wraparound. It's not about the technology. I had a great conversation this morning with Clinton, who I can see at the back there, and he uses the phrase gloriously ordinary lives. I did tell him he should have copyrighted that, and he might have made a fortune by now, because it has been replicated and stolen with pride, as he said. But that's what people are searching for, is the ability to lead a gloriously ordinary life. We also spoke this morning to Clinton about the need of reinforcing that consistent message. So when we want to bring about change, we want to bring about innovation, you might feel like you're saying the same thing over and over and over again, but that's how real change comes. And the hope is with this, that with the consistency of messaging across different organisations from different stakeholders in the same sector, we're helping that innovation move forward, because it feels familiar. Technology can feel very, very unfamiliar to people, it can feel very scary, it can feel very overwhelming. And a big aim of this project is to help to humanise the technology and not have that focus on the tech itself. Thank you very much. And sorry, go on.
show how it makes for human connections. Like a huge amount of what you hear back actually is that technology is enabling people to connect with family, with friends, with support services. Actually, like part of the kind of beauty of it is actually it's there's a lot of people missing out on a lot of stuff, and there's this opportunity gap. And I think what's so powerful about technology-enabled care is it can start to close that gap and give people opportunities that they're currently missing out on. And hopefully that campaign will help to do that, because there is a daunting element, and if we can take away that daunting element, make tech feel every day, make tech feel valued in the way that it should be, we can help people really kind of make those connections and start to cross that opportunity gap.
Absolutely. And Kate, I'd really like to bring you in on a discussion around, how might a supplier or different people within the sector, I gave my own anecdotes of how I could see this being utilised. The person I think of there is my grandmother, who's in her 80s, and she would go to the bus stop and then she would go to the GP and she'd see that consistency, and then she'd ask loved ones, can you have a look at that for me online? Are there any other scenarios that you think that this would be really useful in?
Yeah, definitely. So, hi everyone, I'm Kate from Stockport Homes Group. We have Care Call within our group, which is our tech-enabled care service. So, I'm actually going to hold my hands up here and say we've probably used quite a few stereotypes within some of our marketing campaigns in one way or another over the past couple of years. And we took a bit of a step back because we speak to our users on a daily basis, and we've got so much vibrancy, so much energy, so much positivity, and a lot of this is down to the tech-enabled care that they have. And we thought, we need to take a step back here. These images that we're using aren't actually portraying our audience and our users. So similar to Steve's campaign, we've created a brand new, fresh campaign that shows that confidence. It isn't so much focused on the tech they're using, but how that tech-enabled care makes people feel. And we've rolled this out across billboards and buses across Greater Manchester, and then we'll be doing this over the next 12 months, filtering it through our website, socials, print and digital materials. So it's music to our ears really when TSA came to us and said, we've got a campaign that's got kind of similar theory, similar strategy behind it. Not only was it music to ears because it's free and we've spent a lot of money. When the director finds out how much we've spent, I think they'll literally have their eyes closed. And I've already spent it for the next 12 months. So being able to build in resources like this that are free and have that strategy behind it are really key. And it's like you said, it's about just filtering them in. It doesn't need to be anything massive. It can just be a social post a week. If you are looking at more from like the B2B side, could be even today you go and do a post on LinkedIn about this and do a little bit more of a thought leadership side of it. For us, it's really important that we're spending a lot of time on our customer marketing because they are our end users, but we also do a lot of B2B stuff, and we feel if we're getting that right there with our customers, then it kind of falls into place when we are trying to procure services, or we're trying to tender for a new tech-enabled care service. It might be in Birmingham or so on. So we can really show how we're hitting them 5-star marks when we're doing a tender. So what are we doing in terms of quality? We are TSA accredited, we abide by the best practice, but what are we doing to that going above and beyond? Actually, we're doing this consistent messaging within our marketing. So that kind of B2C stuff is then helping us with the B2B stuff as well.
And I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's thinking about it in the context of what that wider offer is, and you can putting this alongside the virtual home and then the QSF certification, and before you know it, that's a really powerful package of support and guidance and understanding. I want to come to the audience now and see if we've got any questions from anybody. Anybody wants to ask anything? Anybody? Yes. Can we get a mic? Just down here. Oh, she can't hear. Just thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I was just wondering if there's anything that people have got really wrong and that would be a kind of lesson to all of us about how we communicate with the people that draw on care and support and that are drawing on the tech that we're providing, especially as we're kind of a lot of us are going to be trying to build our tech offer, and so is there anything that we can avoid to get that messaging wrong, that people have perhaps spoken to you in a way that doesn't fit right, or just gives an opportunity to not make the same mistakes as other people have, perhaps.
Absolutely, and that is music to my ears to hear, because that is absolutely the hope and the intention with this campaign. And I'll let Steve and others come in, but I think from my perspective, the language guide there feels like it would be your best friend. If that's your ask, there's a really useful guide of let's use less of this language and more of that language. So I would definitely get yourself on the TSA website and have a look for that. But I'll hand over to the panel, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, I think it might not be wrong in the context of how it was being used, I suppose. So a lot of the time we are talking within the sector. So there's a lot of TLAs, three-letter acronyms. There's a lot of kind of, and you just banged out QSF there, which of course we all know what it means. But like, it's natural to sort of abbreviate and to use kind of language that kind of can, if used wrong, keep people out. And this is all about kind of making it as low as possible. So if we're all talking ourselves in the way we would talk to somebody who's drawing on care and support, then there's a good chance that we're using language that everyone will get. And if we're talking in a way that would exclude those people, then then there's a danger that that's going to end up creating a barrier. It's going to create a way to keep people out instead of a way to bring people in. So what we were looking for all along was just ways to still be able to get across the message, the substance of what you guys have to say every day to buyers of services, to the kind of local authorities and to the sort of commissioners of services, but in a way that allows that message to then still work when it's conveyed to other people, to as broad an audience as possible. And I think that's the lesson to look out for. Is would I say this to Chantal Graham?
Deborah, Rich?
Go on.
I feel you need to, the conversation is important. You can't go and it has to be an open conversation. So you can have a set of questions, but you can't be rigid and sticks to that, because then you're going to miss out so much information. And I think a good way, especially when we did TAPI, I found that a good way of finding out what people need or a thing like that is just asking them about themselves. What do they do? What do they enjoy? Questions like that. And I think most importantly that you involve people with lived experience, because, and I think also that's what made TAPI such a huge success. They brought people on like myself who then was able to speak to people in the same position as myself. And then I could share my experience with them, and so that we understand what our needs was. But if it comes down just from a service user and a service provider, and because often people comes in with the thinking of, oh, I know what's best for you, but you don't, because you don't know my life. You don't know what I like doing. You don't know what I used to do or I still enjoy to do. So you don't know nothing about me. And you're only going to know about me if you talk to me and don't pressure me.
Thank you. That was really helpful.
Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, good.
Thank you, Rowan and Steve. Really, really clear work. What does the panel think is going to be the biggest challenge in getting us to use and adopt what is really, really clear in terms of a different language and a different approach?
My instinct is, well, firstly, habit is very powerful, so breaking people out of habits they have is tricky. Also, you're probably investing in your own communication materials. So is that okay? Can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Right. As a behavioural consultant, I'll tell you it's habit, like breaking the habit out of, breaking in the habits of doing how you do it now, in the investment in materials you've already got. But actually, fundamentally, it's very hard to look past the technology sometimes, and I think that mindset of trying to come at it from the customer's end, from the user's end, is a really difficult change to make for most people. The big challenge, I suppose, would be you want to get across what's specifically good about the piece of kit that you've created or the service that you've created. And I suppose that could be a challenge, is how you see that fitting into how you get across the specific benefits, the standout benefits of your technology while still using that consistent language. And we have thought about that. We have thought about the ways in which those technologies sit under those headings and how they're supported by that work. And I think the common language will help with that. But I imagine that will be a challenge for many audiences to see themselves, see your business reflected through this work or through these prisms. I think that will be part of what TSA will be looking to help you solve, and part of what the challenge of working with something that's obviously from the centre and out to you will be.
Absolutely, and I think there is always, that difficulty of this is step one. This is the start of what we hope will be, a really successful campaign, and it is not possible to demonstrate every type of care technology-enabled care that is out there in the sector today. But what this does is it gives that broad spectrum understanding. It opens hearts and minds to understanding what the art of the possible is. But yeah, absolutely. I think we had over here.
Okay, thank you. I'm Linda Webb. I'm a senior researcher at the University of Edinburgh. So I'm coming in an even earlier stage than where we're talking here in terms of what you provide as services. One of the things I'm about to start to launch is the Technology Network for Social Care Innovation. And our ambition with that is to bring stakeholders and people with lived experience together with the researchers, the engineers, the computing people, because so often they come up with ideas and then actually it's not even a problem that somebody has. Okay, so what we're wanting to do is actually hear from the people themselves, both providers, lived experience, what are the challenges that they still see there today, and how can the engineers, whether it's an exoskeleton that means one person can help lift a person rather than needing two, or whether it's an AI support and things like that. So I love this campaign, it's fantastic, and I'm hoping I can use it in terms of drawing people to the research. I would love to know, where would you suggest I go to really pull in the right people? Accessing providers is quite easy, but actually reaching out to the people with lived experience. We're going to be having some online work for people to come and share their stories, and also across the whole of the UK, some in-person workshops for co-creating these ideas and leading to research proposals. So very early on to what you're doing here and talking about, but any advice?
Fantastic.
I'd be really, really open to it, and anyone wants to come and talk to me about it, I'd love to speak to you.
Brilliant. I will hand over to the panel, but before I do, I would do two things. I think from a TSA perspective, great to have a conversation and speak to Rowan, because Rowan has been supporting a lot on our ADAS commission that you'll probably hear about over the next couple of days. And she's done a whole lot of work there to involve people with lived experience, and I'm sure she'll have some fantastic lessons to share. So definitely have that conversation. And then I'll turn to our panel.
Yeah, I'm happy to take an answer on this one. So I probably won't be able to answer it in full. Again, Rowan's probably your best person on it, but we've previously done a analog to digital campaign with TSA and Virgin Media O2, and we did a pilot, didn't we, over a couple of months. This is probably where you need the microphone as well, isn't it? But again, we're part of Stockport Homes Group, so we've got Housing Association, which is our main point of business in the group. Again, getting involved with them, so we have customer engagement teams where they'll have smaller panels and leads within the community, and they're probably the best bet for you to try and get your foot in the door with. I'd be more than happy to speak to you after as well if there's anything you want us to do within Stockport area or any of the connections that we work with. Again, as CareCall, we work across the UK, so there might be a link there with that. But yeah, definitely catch up with Rowan. I think you've probably got a little bit more to say on it, haven't you?
Yeah, there's also our voice colleagues outside in the foyer. If you've not met them yet, absolutely recommend go and have a conversation with them. They are opposite the QSF stand, which is Quality Standards Framework. I didn't explain that. So the Quality Standards Framework is our assurance process for care technologies and the support that wraps around it. Just opposite their stand, you'll see Voice. So I definitely recommend having a conversation with them. And then Rich, Deborah, I'm not sure if that's something that you want to pick up on in particular in terms of how to involve people with lived experience.
Yeah, in terms of interacting with people with lived experience, it's often really critical to find the areas where there's already established networks, because if you're going to places where there's networks already formed, and that's a long way to ensuring it's a safe and inclusive environment where people will feel comfortable to participate, and that trust will already exist with key figures with who they know, and perhaps you can go along as a guest speaker and be part of that way. But there's always lots of opportunities where people are really keen, and even if you were to put a call out, I think you would be really surprised at the uptake that you were able to receive.
The other thing that I would point you in the direction of is TLAP's co-production ladder. And that gives you essentially a stepped ladder of understanding. We would all be aiming for absolute co-production, but when we talk about co-production, it really specifies what that actually means in reality, and understanding where are you on that ladder, because there are steps around engagement and others that take you then to that final tier, which is what we would all be aiming for, which is true co-production. So I definitely recommend having a look at that as a resource of support.
Hi, Chantal.
The infamous Rowan that we've all spoken about.
Oh dear. It's fascinating to hear everyone talking, and I have a question. I think this is one for Rich and Deborah about the shift in narrative that's in this campaign. So a lot in the tech sector, we talk a lot about safety and life-critical care and life and limb care, and in this campaign, there's been much more narrative about enjoyment and meaning and purpose and people having fulfillment and flourishing in their lives. And I'm interested in Rich and Deborah's thoughts on that sort of shift to not just be talking about safety, but talking about enjoying life to its full.
I think, first of all, we have to acknowledge that the power we hold in terms of the language we use. So to be able to take that shift towards looking at a campaign that emphasises all pillars of somebody's life, to be able to enable someone to be who they are, is going to be really transformative in terms of looking at someone's identity, to know what their interests are. We've seen in the video about a person being supported at football, and it's about bringing all those areas of someone's life together to recognise that technology-enabled care can play a role in all of the facets of how someone wakes up in the morning to how they go to bed at night, and what someone does in between, and making sure that technology is aligned at those critical moments is really good.
Yeah, I would add to that also with the safety aspect, and sometimes with some technology we can overdo it. So you may put somebody in literally a padded room for their safety, but then you've taken away the enjoyment of life. You can't prevent everything, because even as a person here yourself, you don't know if you're going to step out there, slip and fall. So if we try to make people over safe, you're taking away their enjoyment for life. So you have to balance it, how far you do. And I think another thing that I didn't say with technology, and when you're approaching people, you also have to respect the ones who don't want technology, because there's people out there who say, right, and it doesn't just mean older people, young people, whatever. So long as the answer is no, from the have all the information, I think we also need to respect that.
Absolutely. And with that, the hour is almost up. I'm not really sure where that hour went, so thank you very much to our panel. I'd also just like to spend a few moments, I'm going to hand over to Craig from Apello, who's going to talk a little bit about what this, some of the work around common understanding means in reality to his organisation, but also in terms of the switchover as well. Thank you all very much for being here this morning, and thank you hugely to our panel. Hand over to Craig.
Thank you very much. Can everyone hear me? Can you wave at me if you can? Which is a shameless engagement technique I'm using, because this is the first time I have worn a microphone like Steve and conducted a silent disco. So, but thank you very much, Chantel. Thank you, Alison, TSA. It's fantastic. What a great initiative. I think it's really, really important we get back to focusing on the end user. I will try not to use acronyms when I talk in this, and we will definitely be using your videos, and by the time I finish with Nathan, he will be a Bournemouth fan as well, so sorry for that. So yes, as I mentioned, my name's Craig, so I'm lucky enough to be the MD at Apello. Hopefully some of you out there have heard of us, so we look after about 400,000 vulnerable people. We take 2.5 million calls a year. We have 100 housing providers. We've won a few awards, and then there's a bunch of our really trusted partners on the right, so we're really grateful for them for working with us. What I would say is I see our role as Apello in this is as educating, and hopefully you've seen from us the last few years a lot of our marketing is in a very similar vein. We've got videos and stuff to try and talk about what we see is happening in the switch off and trying to help people ask the right questions rather than sort of hard sell anything. I think there is a role for the people who are supporting the end user to be educated in the same way as talking to the people, to the end user themselves. And then I think what we certainly coming into this, what we think is one of the big features here is that when we talk about ward and call and scheme equipment, which a lot of you guys will be involved in, we see 23,000 schemes in the country we think haven't yet migrated. So there is 22 months or so till the cut-off, the switch-off. So there is a big lot of work to do, and it's probably more than our industry can deliver in totality with full upgrades. And certainly at Apello, we are seeing a 26% first-time call failure rate. That's February, so we think last year was 20% for us. Now, maybe slightly different in other centres, but I think we're pretty representative. So there is a lot to do in a very short space of time, and we think that one of the big solutions for that will be an analog to, I'm not going to say A to D, I'm going to say analog to digital converter, so to sit on site. There's a couple available, and I mentioned about education, so what we are doing, and if you come to our stand, we've got sort of handouts with what we think the questions to ask when you're looking for your analog to digital converter, so that you can, if you are purchasing that, you can buy the best one for you. And so some of those are up there about inbound and outbound calling. Does it support transferring? Does it work on all equipment types? What protocols does it support? These are sort of quite technical questions, but I think the right questions to ask to select the right product for you. And that really is our focus of the show and everything else. And all our other products, we've got a similar idea of trying to educate people. So do come and see us. I think I've actually probably gone a bit quicker than I expected, which is the nature of presenting on the stage. But we are, like I say, come and see us. We're over there. We've got a QR code there. We actually have some videos very similar to the ones that you've done, but in a different skew around what's happening in the technology. Again, not trying to sell, just trying to educate. So if you get the chance to watch those, that'd be great. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. And that closes our first session of iTech 2025. And hopefully that's been really, really useful for everybody. Please do go along to the TSA website, get downloading those materials. They're editable, add your own logos, steal with pride, as Clinton used the phrase this morning. And we look forward to seeing them all over your social media. Thank you.
you.